Hi guys, my name is Diana Gifford and I would like to welcome you all to our introduction to hand sewing tools and all of their precautions. Today we're going to go over a seam ripper, a pin cushion, thread, scissors, needles, a thimble, pins, a tape measure, and buttons. To start off, we're going to be going over a seam ripper. So this is a seam ripper. It usually comes with a protective case, and this is it up close. So you can see it has that curved edge and the little red ball. By definition, they are a small tool used to be removing or picking stitches while protecting the fabric. You must be careful because the curved blade is very sharp. Keep the protective cover on it when you're not using it. Never aim it at your body or anybody else, and always work with the point pointing away from you, never towards you. Our next tool is scissors. So these are fabric scissors. They're very sharp, and to use them you just put your fingers in through the rings and you can open and close them. So these scissors are used for cutting cloth, paper, and other thin material. You must always walk with the scissors facing down like this, and you should never run with them. Always keep the scissors closed when you're not using them. It's not safe to keep them open like this on your desk. If you do drop them, do not try to catch it because you will hurt yourself. Our next tool is thread. So here I have all-purpose thread. You can see that it's just a navy blue thread. So thread is a kind of yarn that's used for sewing. It comes in many different colors, materials, and weights. Kind of the same, but they're a little bit different. This one is cotton wrapped polyester. For all fabrics is polyester covered polyester. So they look very similar in their width, but they're a little bit different. So that's just two examples. And with thread, if you ever drop it on the floor, it's totally fine. You just have to pick it up very quickly because somebody can slip and fall. It's very slippery. And next we have our tape measure. Mine just happens to be pink. A lot of them are white or yellow. So it's just a ruler, but it's flexible. So when you are getting like the circumference of something, you can get a proper measurement because a regular tape measure would just fold and make an angle. It's very important to never put this around your neck because you could choke, and we don't want that happening. Our next tool is the button. So there are a bunch of different types of buttons. Here I have a 2-hole button. This is a 4-hole button. And this one is a cash button. So it looks pretty on the outside, and then it's held together by that little loop. So these plastic discs are sewn on to your clothes, whether it be for purpose or decoration, and the needle goes right through those holes with the thread, and that's how you hold it on. So these buttons, we have to make sure that we don't put them in our mouth so we don't choke. Our next tool is pins. So I like to keep mine in a little jar so they don't run loose, and they are little pins with a color on top so you could see them. So when you're sewing and you're trying to hold together fabrics, you use these and you kind of intertwine. So you use these pins to hold together fabric before you sew. And it's very important to remember, we don't put these in our mouths. You can't put pins in your pocket because it can hurt you, stab you. We definitely don't put them in our mouths. If we drop them on the floor, we just quickly pick them up so nobody steps on it, slips on it. Going along with pins, we have needles. So I like to keep mine in this little box. You can also get them on a sheet like this. So these needles look very similar to pins, but they don't have the decorative little ball on top. Instead, they have a little loop where you put the thread in, and then you can sew. And when you're sewing, you can use a thimble. So the thimbles go either on your pointer finger, your thumb, so when you're pushing the needle through, it's very easy to protect your finger. If the thimble doesn't fit your finger, that's totally fine. Just don't use it because pushing is not a good idea. These usually come in metal. I have a metal one right here. in metal, or they have a lot of plastic ones now in lots of fun colors. And with these thimbles, we also don't chew on them. We don't put them in our mouths. And for the needles have the same precautions as the pins. Don't eat them, don't drop them on the floor. If you do pick them up, you don't want to slip. Lastly, we have our pin cushion. There are both tiny ones as well as big ones. So when you are using your pins, after you are done sewing or before you put the pins in your fabric, you can have them all on these pin cushions like this. So they're super easy to grab, so you're not sticking your hand in a little container of pins and possibly hurting yourself. So it makes sewing very easy and very helpful. When you're pinning, just make sure you're paying very attention. Very easy to accidentally hurt yourself. So yeah, that's our introduction to sewing.